What's up, YouTube? I was just reflecting and thinking when we meet someone so passionate, sometimes we gotta ask why they're like that, where the passion comes from. And I feel like it comes from a lot of the times, for me, it comes from deep pain and suffering. So, a lot of the reasons that I do what I do is just to become a better jogger, to become a better distance runner, or an endurance runner. And so, when I started running at 250 pounds, and I had sleep apnea. I was diagnosed with sleep apnea when I still smoked cigarettes. I quit smoking cigarettes. I started running. So, um, I I noticed that it really affected my sleep apnea because of the poor sleep, the poor recovery. Uh, if I ran too many miles, I'd need a nap midday. There are some times where I'd have bad sleep and I'd need a nap midday, even if I didn't run. So uh, it was painful. I gotta be honest, it was so painful. I remember there were days where my son wanted to play and I had to tell him no. And he started to understand, like, dad needs a nap. You know what I mean? Dad is sick. He doesn't have the energy to play with me and he needs a nap a lot of times. And that was so sad and painful. Uh, the sleep apnea, it affected my ability to be a father and it affected my ability to be a businessman. And there was another incident where I was like working and I was like an hour away from home. I and I just was so tired, and I thought about buying a movie ticket just so I could fall asleep, so I could drive home with some energy. I didn't want to crash my car, and all that pain led me to, like, I read every book. One thing that helped me sleep a little bit better, because I'd experienced with this. I experienced with, like, doing intermittent fasting, and I would do 24 hours, 48 hours, 72-hour fasts. I would do 96-hour fasts, and that was my ceiling. I couldn't go past that. But one thing I noticed, that perhaps it had to do with the inflammation. My sleep got better during these fasts. So I was reading. I read like every single book about fasting. I was watching YouTube and following the content regarding fasting. And I read this book by Steve Hendricks, The Oldest Cure in the World. And he wrote, because, okay, one thing I gotta warn you is, like, if you're sick and you start looking for the solution, you're gonna encounter a bunch of salespeople trying to sell you things that don't work. It happens in the running community with plantar fasciitis, with Achilles tendon injuries. They're going to sell you all these gimmicks that don't really work, and they're just trying to put money in their pockets. So I read books. I read books regarding fastings. And I came upon this book by Steve Hendricks, The Oldest Cure in the World. And it was about fasting. You guys know that I practice like a carnivore diet. So here's the deal. I weighed 250. I started exercising and being very cautious with the foods that I put in my system. I tried to stay away from processed foods, but I was still overeating. And I got down to 230. I switched to carnivore, and I got down to 220. Was still overeating, didn't know anything about weighing my foods. I didn't think that that worked. Was still just going off vibes. But I hit a plateau and I stayed at 220, and that's what gave me motivation to do this. I wanted to do a 21-day fast because that's what Steve Hendricks did in his book. And in his book, he wrote that by day 7, 8, or 9, something like that, his sleep apnea disappeared. And I was like, whatever. I don't know. I don't know if I believe that, but I said, the worst comes to worst, I'll get skinnier. I'll sleep better. And, I mean, the worst comes to worst, I become healthier and a better runner and a faster runner. So I might as well give it a shot. So I gave it a shot, and I'll be honest, like, I had the same exact experience as him. Day 7, day 8, I no longer needed to use the CPAP machine, and it's still sitting in the same spot as before. So I'm going to tell you about my 19-day experience. This 19-day fast, I tried to do 21, and I only lasted 19. Full disclosure. So I started with the weight of 220 pounds, and at the end of the 19 days, I weighed 196. So I'll be honest, I had 2 really bad days. The one day I felt like I had like a flu, no energy. I was stuck in bed the whole day. I had a 10K race that day, and I did not go. And the other day I was vomiting. Did that have to do with the fast? I don't know. When you're vomiting, there's something in your body that needs to come out, and I feel like it's completely healthy to just throw up. And I ended up being fine after that. And I remember, like, I would hit the gym a lot. I would not run often, because after a few days of fasting, your body just becomes like a little bit weak, and that is like your body healing. So I just let it go, and I loved running. I like kind of lost motivation to run, and I was just like, what is it? Sacrifice? It's a sacrifice to become a better runner. It's a sacrifice to become a healthier individual. So I'm going to do it. One thing I noticed that really surprised me is I'd hit the gym and I'd do like red light therapy, and I would do weightlifting, because weightlifting is more like chill. It's not like cardiovascular running. One thing I noticed, and it really surprised me, I was able to, a couple weeks into the fast, when I lost like 15, 20 pounds, I was able to bench press the same amount of weight, which means that you don't lose that much muscle. Because I was skinnier, benching the same weight, and that made me really excited. I felt like when you're like skinnier but just as strong, you feel like an absolute beast. I'll tell you that. And then the other thing that really surprised me is, because you think about hunter and gatherer, like our ancestors who used to hunt and gather. Fasting's so normal. And I feel like it's completely normal to like fast for a few days and then feast and overeat. And that's just like what we do as humans. So, and if you think about it, like when we when we have no food in our system, we become more ferocious, more active, sharper thinkers. So, one thing I did to pass the time, because when you're not eating, you tend to get bored every now and again. One thing I did to pass the time is play chess. And my chess rating went up by 100 points. It's known that when you fast that you start thinking clearer. And it makes total sense. Like, if we have so many thoughts every single day, and when we're eating 3 times a day, 6 times a day, that's a lot of thoughts that consume us. What are we going to cook? Do we have butter? Do we have this? Do we have that? Do we have oil? Do we have the seasoning that I like? Do we have this? Did I forget to take this out of the freezer and put it in the fridge so it could defrost? So many thoughts regarding food. And then when you take that away, we're just able to spend our thoughts and our time thinking about things that are more of a priority because we're not eating. And the other thing that surprised me, and it's more of a negative thing, obviously this was a water fast, so I was consuming liquids. When I drank something, it went right through me. I had to pee all the time because I had no food in me. So here's what happened. I told you guys about the weight loss. I lost 24 pounds in 19 days. I believe those numbers are pretty normal. We might lose more, we might lose less, depending on where we start and stuff like that. So what changed? I told you that I didn't need the sleep apnea machine anymore. Does that mean that my sleep scores were in the 90s every day? No. My sleep scores actually only improved a little bit. And the reason behind that is because I still had poor sleep hygiene. And I just feel I don't know scientifically why, but maybe because when you have poor sleep scores, I'm talking about my sleep scores were 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. If it was mid 60s, I was like, today's going to be a good day. And it got a little bit better. My highs got higher and my lows got a little bit higher. But I still had very bad sleep on certain days, and I would need a nap later. But I wasn't waking up in the middle of the night gasping for air. So why was my sleep still poor? I just think when you're accustomed to gasping for air, waking up in the middle of the night, it takes some time for you to change your sleep hygiene. So it got gradually better over time as I continued to lose weight and be healthier. This was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, but at the same time it was so rewarding. So I'm so grateful for this. And this is my experience as a runner. When you lose weight and you start running again and you're running at the same speed, kind of, maybe a little bit faster, but I feel like it takes time for your body to say okay, you don't have to carry around as much weight. We could go a little bit faster. And you start getting faster a little bit gradually, but I definitely noticed my pace improve. Oh, and okay, I have every single race that I did a race before this, and it was my first 10K race ever. My time was 1 hour and 3 minutes and 52 seconds. And shortly after this, I did another 10K. So I did this fast January 2nd to January 21st. And it was a good time to do it because in Pennsylvania, usually during that time we have snow piling up on top of other snow. So there were a lot of people on my Strava like running on treadmill and stuff like that. There weren't even many people running outside, which is kind of why I picked that time to do it. So my first 10K was that December before that, and then the February after that, I ran 58 minutes and 40 seconds. So that was obviously I'm 24 pounds lighter and became more efficient as a runner. And you just get faster as you lose weight. But I feel like at times for you to like work into that pace. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this experience that I wanted to share with you. If you have any questions about running, fasting, throw it in the comments. I'll respond to everything. I'm so grateful for you guys. And I'll see you in a week for another video.